de Firebase también. Creo que no está aquí, pero Brian Carlos también es GDE de Firebase. Entonces, si tienen, pues bueno, alguna pregunta de Firebase, pueden acercarse a ellos. También, porque somos una comunidad, la comunidad siempre tratamos de ser bastante respetuosos y incluyentes, perdón. Tenemos a las personas que nos están apoyando con lengua de señas. Entonces, si podemos... Esto fue gracias a que la comunidad también se acercó a nosotros y nos dijo, oye, sería interesante, sería importante y queremos tener esto para formar parte del evento. Y recuerden que si algo ayuda a ver algo que eres en la comunidad de Flutter, ya en español, y bueno, Flutter en general, es ser de esta forma, entender que todos aprendemos diferente y que todos necesitamos algunas cosas diferentes. Y esta es una forma de estar un paso más cerca. No es el total y no es el máximo que se puede hacer, pero es algo y es un camino en esa dirección. Sin más por el momento, y que empiece Flutter Conf Latam 2023 en Medellín, Colombia. Entonces, este es el main stage, como dijimos, ahorita lo vamos a dividir entre tres con magia. Pero para empezar tenemos a Jorge Coca y yo, como siempre les digo, yo existo aquí nomás para presentarlos. Y Jorge Coca se encargará de tomar el resto. Entonces, Jorge, por favor.
Please, one round of applause. So it's Wednesday, 9 a.m. How's everyone doing? Buenos días. Good morning! Come on, give it to me. Good morning! Good morning! So my name is Jorge Coca. I'm the head of engineering of Interpretación LSC. And today, I think for the entire conference, this is the only talk that is not going to be about code. It's going to be very about Flutter. However, it's going to be about how to be a better engineer, how to be a better team, how to make a better team. Because at the end of the day, we all have in front of us a career that's pretty long. Right? Many of us, it's a young audience, in our 20s, in our 30s, in our 40s. We still have like 20 to 30 years ahead of us in terms of career. Sometimes we focus a lot on like things that we can do now and today. But what if we start thinking about what we can do in the future? How to be a better engineer? What's the attitude, the mindset that we can have to be a better engineer? So I decided to make this talk always be growing. I stole this actually from our core values at Medellín Ventures, and I love it. Because this means that you should always push yourself to be a better version tomorrow than who you are today, right? It means that you're going to be learning. It means that you're going to be uncomfortable. So we're going to look at recipes on how to do that. If I wanted to add a subtitle to this presentation, I would call it Scaling Engineering Culture with a Smile on Your Face. Sometimes facing the unknown, facing something that is new, feels like a struggle, feels like something that you create anxiety. But there are recipes, like there are techniques that we can have to actually feel good when we try something new and taking risks. I'm from Spain. I was born in Madrid and I lived in Madrid until I was on my 20s, like I was in college. And you know, like when I was about to start college and about to start finish college, it was a very different world. And that to me is the reason why I care so much about culture. Let me give you a little bit of my personal story. And we're gonna see how we can use that to build better engineering culture. Today we're going to be talking about 3 different points. My personal story, right? Why do I care so much about engineering culture? Your own personal story. I don't know all of you personally, but we're going to find details, we're going to find techniques on how to write your story the best way you can. And finally, this is a team effort. Like engineering, you don't build it usually like a product or software in isolation. Right? We see this constantly. In the open source community, we collaborate and engage with people that we might never see in person unless we come to Flutter confidently. So we're going to talk about how we can write such a great story together. Or in other words, that personal story is about being the role model that you want to be. How to surround yourself with amazing people. At the end of the day, you got to acknowledge that there's smarter people in the world than you, right? So you want to make sure that you are surrounded by those people. And finally, how to get to build. So my personal story. I said that I'm from Spain, but actually I don't live in Spain. My entire whole life, I've been living in the United States, in Chicago. Why? This graphic is very demoralizing, but it will get to a positive note. Basically, when I started college, that was the unemployment rate for youth people in living in Spain, actually. Wasn't great, but you know, it was manageable. There was like an outcome, there was a future for people of my age. However, when I was about to approach graduation, 46% of youth people were unemployed in Spain. And at that point, I was this person ready to continue learning, thinking about my professional outcome, my professional career, and I was full of this, right? You have to understand that this is about the age where like Facebook, for example, was popular, like a model that everyone wanted to replicate. Twitter was the same thing. We had GitHub, right? Like GitHub didn't exist when I started in college. But not only that, I think about Spotify, think about YouTube's, right? Like those are like very like mid-2000s products that we used that didn't exist back then. So there was an element of me being like in my teenage and like early 20s that I wanted to build something. And Spain didn't give me the opportunity to do that, right? So I made that decision. I took action. I decided to leave Madrid and move to Chicago to start like a completely new life. This means that I moved 7,000 kilometers, or like 4,400 miles away from everything that I love. My family, my sister, my dog, my friends, soccer games at night. I left all that behind to see if I could find a better professional life. Wow, I was not expecting this. Why? Because I had this thing inside of me. Not that I wanted to start my own company or anything like that, but I wanted a better outcome for my life. I wanted to take control. I wanted to find like I was building something that could be impactful, that had meaning. And Spain, unfortunately, didn't offer that to me, like actually a lot of people from my generation, right? And when I moved to the United States, as I said, like I was seeking out those opportunities to be part of like an impactful product that could not revolutionize the world, but at least like be used by people and not just like, like operations or whatever, right? It's like I wanted to build something that was gonna be useful to the world, right? So I was seeking out this entrepreneurial spirit. So in other words, what I did was to move away from the things that I love so I could experience a better engineering culture, right? Back in the day, the engineering culture in Spain was like, you have 2 hands, 10 fingers, sure, you can go. That was the quality control that we had in Spain, right? And that doesn't scale really. Like, we are humans, we are creative, we wanna be challenged, we wanna build something new, right? If you feel like you're building the same thing constantly, you're gonna get bored. And at the end of the day, feeling bored is actually one of the worst things that can happen to us as engineers, that we wanna build and we wanna be creative, right? So, all that sacrifice, just to realize that engineering culture is the secret sauce of what we build, how we build it, and why we build it. For every meaningful product that you can see out there in the world, there's gonna be 25 clones. Many of them cheaper, many of them even open source, and the reality is like, why one perseveres over the others, right? I don't think it's marketing. I don't think it's more money. I don't think it's being the first. If being the first was important, we would still using Skype and not WhatsApp, right? I wouldn't say that WhatsApp doesn't have that much of a marketing strategy, but that's a different story. So it's, at least for the engineering team, it's that engineering culture what makes the difference, right? So, great engineering culture builds amazing products. And this has a few impacts. It allows us to build faster and build better, right? Faster is great to get to market, better is great for scaling. It's gonna be more fun. You're gonna be surrounded by people that are gonna push you into new unexpected directions. You're gonna innovate. You're gonna try something new. You're gonna be a thought leader in your industry. That at the end of the day develops your personal brand, your company brand. That's great. We enjoy all that. It allows you to be in places like this. It's gonna be memorable. At the end of the day, no one's gonna remember the pull request that you wrote last week. Actually, if I ask you, you won't remember. But you're gonna remember those collaboration sessions that you had with your teammates, and you're gonna remember like, wow, working with Betty was such a great experience, a great mentor. Working with Eric, he was so knowledgeable about video games, right? That's what you're gonna remember. That's what makes engineering culture. It's gonna have a huge impact on your network as well. It's gonna kind of like connect you with the world in better situations, right? We've all seen it, like people that started like Twitter, now they go into building amazing mobile products, right? From PayPal, we see that nicknames, right? Like the people that build PayPal, they start like continuing with Tesla, things like that, right? So that spirit is contagious, and that affects your network and the impact that you can have. And of course, that provides a brighter future, right? The better kind of like experience that you're able to build for yourself, the brighter your future is gonna be, because you're gonna be more interesting for the market, for new companies, but you're gonna have better insights, and one day you might have that like little spot that is gonna put you in that situation where you wanna start, company or something like that. You're gonna be better from it, right? So as you can see, great engineering culture, it's fantastic. Like it's actually contagious. It's an spirit, right? So that to me, that's why I care so much about engineering culture. And that's just me. The goal today that I have is to try to inspire. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not at the end of the day today, but maybe like 2 years from now, you will remember like, oh, I remember this guy that was speaking in Medellín that told me about taking risks, and I'm gonna give it a try. I don't know, that's what I'm gonna try. So we're gonna talk about how you can write your own story to build better engineering culture. And this is very, very important. Engineering culture starts with you. It's not something that is gonna be said by the CEO of your company, although it helps. Not something that is going to be said by your manager, although it helps, but you have control over the person that you want to be. Your own culture starts with you. You have control, you have power over that. It's like a ripple effect, right? Now, when we're like at the lower level of the production scale or whatever, a ripple effect may be smaller, right? Like, hey, we just drop a tiny stone in the water, and we see 3 waves. If it's a big stone, like you can see that it makes a 10-meter splash or whatever. But the reality is that each one of you have the power to be the ripple, right? So, this means that your energy, your passion, your curiosity, your willingness to do better things over time is contagious. We're gonna be in the booth later, like playing video games or whatever, and you might leave the conference like, wow, you build video games. That's contagious, right? When you see people fascinated about Flutter, and you're like, nah, I'm not so sure. That energy is contagious. Maybe that puts you like in a weekend to give it a try, right? So to me, this is what I want to spark in you, like to make you empowered, knowing that you have control over who you want to be, right? So what can we do to make this ripple effect huge, right? What can you do? What kind of practices, habits you can incorporate in your life to make sure that your ripple effect is as big as possible? That you can continue inspiring the next person. Because next year, there's going to be another Flutter Latam conference. And it won't be me here. It won't be one of you. So what can you do when you're here to inspire? So the first one is to be biased by action. I love this emoji. It's like running. It's like, hey, I hate running, right? But but what it means by this is like many times in our teams, right? There's an opportunity to try something new. There's an opportunity to volunteer. There's an opportunity to help. There's an opportunity to ask a question when you're in a meeting. You're like, I have to go do what I'm doing. You gotta take action. You gotta ask a question. You gotta raise your hand, right? You gotta be there. You gotta show up. If you don't show up, if you continue taking the traditional approach, you're gonna take or receive a traditional outcome, right? Oops. I'm showing you all the slides. So, to me, the analogy here, why we have a favorite movie in common, it's Latam. And I like Latam because it forces you to be in the audience, but it also makes you, like, you can take action, that you can be the next Sebastian or Mia. Getting too nerdy in this one. But it tells you that if you take action, what could be the outcome, right? So in reality, each one of you here, your own personal life, if you think about it as a movie, you can decide who do you want to be. Do you want to be in the audience, waiting for the story to be delivered to you. And that's it. And whether you like it or not, that's a problem, but you're taking a passive attitude. Or you can be an actor or an actress and be in the movie and take action. And when you take action, we don't know what's going to be the outcome. But you know that you're empowered to take action. You're the one taking the steps. You're the one that's, right? You're the one acting. And that's fun. That's the beauty of it, right? There's another thing that we have to consider that, of course, our XC3D comics, like they always have the answer, right? That when you don't take action, you are paralyzed by analysis, right? How many times has that happened this in your life that you have two options in front of you? Like, oh, I could do this, or I could do this, but then you start thinking about, I don't know, there's too much risk, I'm not sure, whatever, and time passes by, that opportunity is gone. You just realize that you wasted the time thinking about the opportunity, right? It's about changing this. It's about taking action. It's about sometimes even making mistakes. And that's why the second point here is very, very important. You gotta give yourself permission to fuck it up. And I'm not asking about asking permission to your manager or anything like that. No, it starts with you. How many times you've been paralyzed by your own mindset? I'm like, well, I know that this code base could have better tests, but like, you know, no one's writing tests, so I'm not gonna write tests because I wanna be the person that writes tests or that it proposes something. Because maybe they don't like it, right? You didn't even have that conversation with anyone else. It was just you in your head and your angel in your email having that conversation. And you didn't take action because you were worried about taking a risk or about making a mistake. When you allow yourself to fuck it up, and I'm talking about you, then you take action. And you don't mind about the consequences. You just mind about like, hey, I'm trying to move the needle in the right direction. And when that happens, usually people don't tell you, like, don't do this anymore. People will be gracious, will be appreciating you because you're taking action. You get it, right? So it's very important that you unleash yourself and empower yourself to take action. Sometimes our biggest enemy is our own mindset, right? Hey, I want to do like sky jumping. No, it's dangerous or whatever. I don't want to do that, by the way. Like, you know, many people, they think about it, but then they don't want to take the step or whatever. Sometimes if you feel like that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it. Taking action means taking risks. Yes, we don't know what's going to be the outcome. I can tell you that if you don't take action, we know the outcome, but it's going to be nothing. Or someone else will lead that pace of the life. Right? But taking risks means that you don't know the outcome, and that's fine. That's how we move on. But that doesn't mean that you have to do it without pressure. Right? You have to take a little bit of that weight over your shoulders. Just go ahead and do it so you can enjoy the journey. More importantly, you gotta be gracious with yourself for taking action, but also gotta be gracious with other people taking action. As I said, like, you have your own ripple effect. You can inspire people. When other people is trying to inspire you, join them. Grab them by the hand, by the arm, or whatever, and just be gracious and enjoy that journey. Because not taking action means being paralyzed, and actually means living. Technology, where there's constant evolution. That's what's on. Oh my goodness, I first this once and it goes 4 slides. The third point in here, and this is something that I didn't go to the Boy Scouts, but I had a couple friends that went to the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. They told me that they have this rule that is, leave the campground better than you found it. Of course, we don't work in a campground, so what we do is to leave the code base better than we found it, right? Engineering is not a perfect science. There's many ways to achieve the same goal. Even for us at Ready Ventures, we achieve 100% code coverage. And that doesn't mean that it's 100% perfect. It means that our level of confidence in that code base is higher than if we had 50%, right? But we know that 100% code coverage doesn't mean 0 bugs or anything like that. But now we're thinking about if that's our standard, what's the next thing that we can do to improve it, right? So we always have this mentality of leaving the code base better than the way we found it. It's also very important to recognize that we do not write code for ourselves. We do write code for someone else. Think about the folks that are maintaining the Flutter SDK. They're not building apps. They're building the SDK so people can build apps, right? Therefore, like the emphasis on implementation, on clarity in the code, on how to debug and all the stuff, it's very, very, very important. And sometimes we forget that when we're building apps, that's kind of like the end thing, but we work in a team. For chances are that you're going to be in that company for 2 years and then switch jobs, or you're going to have an team leader. If you're very successful, you can scale from 5 people to 50 people. And the code that you wrote today is not something that you're going to maintain 6 weeks from now, 6 months from now, right? So be gracious about that. Try to think about the other person. Leave the code base, leave the campground better for them so you can continue improving all together. It's never too late to add or write better text. Right? That's one way that we have to leave the code base better. It's never too late to remove the amount of to-dos that we have hidden in the code base or in Jira or whatever, right? It's never too late to close the gap between Figma and Flutter. Flutter is amazing. It gives us control over every single pixel of the screen. And then we see Figma, we see Flutter, it's like, oh, these plugins, these colors, these excuses. We can take action, right? It's never too late to improve the documentation as well. Whatever, like I'm just thinking of 5 examples that came very quickly to my mind. But the question here is like, it's never too late. You can take action to leave the code base better than before. It's never too late to be a better teammate. You know, I've been talking a lot lately about confidence. Because you usually think that confidence means that you have the answers for everything, and you don't have the answers, and it's like, do that all. No. Confidence means that if you know something, sure, go and give an answer. And if you can help someone else to achieve that same knowledge that you have, go and help. But confidence also means that if you have a question, if there's something that you don't know, you're confident in yourself by raising your hand and saying, I don't know, can someone help me? That requires a lot of confidence because you're exposing yourself out there, right? But also that means that you are taking action to fill the gaps in your knowledge, and that's the best way to learn. And that ultimately is the way to be a better teammate. It's like, if you can help, help. But if you are in need, raise your hand. And if you see someone that is in need, go and help. Go and be a mentor. Go and be a coach, right? So as you can see, even this has nothing to do with the code base. This is a way to leave the code base better than the founder, or at least leave your engineering culture better than the founder. And the fourth point, and this is the last point that we're going to talk about on kind of like becoming like a better individual, is to be comfortable in the unknown. What does this mean? I'm going to show you here how old I am. Well, I already showed it before, but like I'm on a roller coaster today. When I started college, the iPhone or Android phones, like that regard, did not exist. However, today, that's what brings food to my table, right? Like, that's what gives me employment, that's what gives me a salary. So that means that at some point, we had to learn it, right? When I finished college, actually, many years ago, even Flutter did not exist. Like, Flutter was kind of like, started in 2017, 2018. At that point, that was already like in almost like 10 years of career, right? And you have to continue learning and recycle yourself. When I finished college, React didn't exist, TypeScript didn't exist, Dart didn't exist, Kotlin didn't exist, Swift didn't exist. As you can see, all the modern technologies that we use today is something that didn't exist when I finished college. You gotta keep learning, you gotta feel comfortable in the unknown by taking action, right? By leaving the code is better than the public. That's how you're gonna develop that mentality of like, it doesn't matter what comes to my plate, I can learn it. And you're gonna enjoy that learning journey. That's actually what adds value to your career, right? Technology is in constant evolution. We gotta admit it. This is not gonna be the most popular comment I'm gonna make in a Flutter conference, but there's gonna be one day something better than Flutter. It's natural. It's just gonna happen. And it's okay. We gotta be open to that change, right? We gotta be open to learn, right? And help others to continue learning. That's how you're gonna grow as an engineer. Otherwise, and this might be actually what you wanna do in your career, I'm not saying no, but you might spend 50 years working with Colombiana. You might spend 50 years working with PHP or C, right? Nothing against those languages, but we know that like the abstraction is not as good as what we see in Flutter, right? We know that it's harder to fight better implementation. We know that it's harder to build better engineering culture if you don't continue learning yourself. So only the learners, only those that feel comfortable in the unknown will thrive in this world, because we're in constant change. There's even stuff today that I'm like, way behind. I have no clue about machine learning. I have no clue about artificial intelligence. There's people on my team that they come to me with questions. I'm like, you know more than I do. It's impossible to know everything, but that's why you want to surround yourself with smarter people, with people that they have that curiosity, that spark, that ripple effect, right? And you want to be open to hear from everyone, and you gotta be open to continue learning yourself. For better or for worse, being an engineer means that we chose a career path that is very exciting, but it's going to keep us studying all the time. So we're going to enjoy that aspect. So let's recap this idea. A successful engineer is someone that is going to be biased by action, right? Like we are not paralyzed by our own mindset. We're just going to, actually, like if you've ever done like improv classes or something like that, they have this rule of yes and, so you can keep the story moving. That would be a good way to actually talk about being biased by action. We have to allow ourselves to fuck it up, right? Actually, most of the times when you allow yourself to do this, you're not gonna fuck it up. You might have an outcome that wasn't expected, and you're gonna learn from that outcome, but it's never gonna be a mistake. It's always gonna be a new learning experience, right? If it's good, you're gonna invest in building on top of that one. If it was bad, you know where the landmines are, so you're gonna avoid that one. So, you wanna leave the code base always better than you found it, right? Like this is kind of like obvious, but sometimes we don't do it. Like we're working in this code base, we see like, you know, this to-do content doesn't make any sense here. I'm still gonna leave it because someone leave it there for many reasons. No, go and ask that person. Maybe you can remove it. Maybe you can write it in a better way. I don't know, but like let's focus on building better than you do, right? And be comfortable in the unknown. That's very important as well. But of course, as I said, like, this is not an individual effort. Like this is about your own ripple effect, about expanding your impact. This is a team effort. So what can we do also as a team to have a collective ripple effect that is huge, right? This is all about the story that we all write. So going back to that ripple effect, right? The idea here is to combine that energy, that mindset, that positivity, that curiosity to build a better team, like a better oiled team that is capable of delivering on time, delivering successfully, right? That the organization presses about, wow, this team is like top of the game. So, my goodness, so how can we make this ripple effect even bigger together, right? This is very easy to say, but it's very hard to do. The complex problems, we're going to provide easy solutions. Let's think about Flutter for a second. I think that if you've done any other kind of UI development in the past, whether that's like HTML or native Android or native iOS or something like that, or like Java or whatever, we can agree that Flutter is simpler and easier to learn than any of the other solutions, right? But they solve a very complex problem. That is like, how can we get this idea of multi-platform truly be performant and effective, regardless of what's the operating system or the screen that we have, right? That's a very complex problem that if the Flutter team hadn't provided an easy solution, first of all, we wouldn't be here, because it would be really hard to scale, and it would be really hard to build this network of knowledge and solutions on top of it, right? So this is a mindset that is very important when we work as a team. It's like, for a complex problem, we gotta provide easy solution. If a complex problem comes with a complex solution, that might only work for that particular instance, but you're not gonna scale that. You're not gonna be able to build an open source community around that, right? Like thinking about state management, we see some of the best solutions out there. It's because they're easy to use. They solve a complex problem in a very easy way, right? So this is a very important mindset that we can apply with 3 principles. So where do we start with this? The first one is the intern group. I should have added here the trademark logo because I just made this up. But something that is very important is that, to me, so think about this. Everyone here at some point probably has been an intern in their life, right? And you go and join like a software company for the first time, and you're excited, but also like full of anxiety. You're like, will they ask me to code on the very first day? I hope they do. that would be a great sign of a healthy code base, right? Imagine a healthy code base, a code base that is so good that on the very first day you can get an intern that is super new in their career. They've never seen the code base or your product before, but within the first day you ask them, hey, we have a bug, maybe that it's a banking account, we have a bug in our transactions page, can you go and fix it? And the code base is so clear, it's so easy to navigate, that within 5-10 minutes, they have figured out where the problem is, and within a few hours, they have a bug fix ready for you. That to me is the interview. Every decision that we make as a team should be oriented towards, if we have someone new joining the code base today, could they figure out any common problem within 2 hours, right? If you're capable of doing that, I can guarantee you, you're set up for success. You're going to be ready to scale. And when we talk about those changes, I'm talking about the bug fixes, the tests, and code. As I said, I probably made this up, this intro, but I like that. So let's take a look to something that we see, just like the first decision that we make in a code base, right? Do we divide by feature list or do we divide by type of components, right? To me, and I'll tell you why. This is pretty easy to solve with the intergroup. If I ask anyone to look at just this folder structure, if I ask you like, hey, we have a bug in the rewards page. By looking at these two different file structures, probably on the one on the right, you can see that there's a rewards folder, and that's the first folder that you're going to start opening. Right? And that's going to limit the scope of the things that you need to learn about that code base. However, the one on the left, like, oh shoot, there's a bug in rewards, and they have common controllers for data, helpers, models, pages, widgets, UI, whatever. It's not that welcoming. It's effective, right? But to me, it's kind of like if you have like your medicines, and the left approach is like color coding your medicines, you know, knowing where you're going to take. And the right one is actually like, this is ibuprofen, this is amoxicillin, or whatever that is, right? Just a little bit more welcoming when you think about that structure, right? And just ask, like if someone's going to look at this and make a decision within 30 seconds, which one is going to help them to make that decision faster and more effective? Let's not even talk about the idea that like, what's the difference between helpers and duties? What's the difference between common and core? Like that's my own personal journey. As I said, like, those decisions can affect a lot of how you actually make your code base more friendly, right? So the intergroup, it's all about helping people that know nothing about their code, that they've never been in your team on the first day. Can they be effective? Can they contribute? Can they add value, right? So let's introduce like a few simple things. How can we guarantee that we have a healthy intergroup? Well, it's about building an environment that welcomes contributions on the very first day. If you see that consistently, you can have new people on your team, and they can add value on the very first day, you're set up for success. This is something that we see constantly in the open source community, right? All right. Believe it or not, this is not the first time that happens to me in a conference. That's a different story, right? Like, if we think about open source, like, hey, let's say that we're working with FLChat, like it's one of the libraries that I saw that was on the Flutter YouTube channel recently, right? If there's a bug and you cannot fix it within a few hours, you're going to be like, might as well not use this library because the implementation is not friendly, because X, Y, Z, right? This happens all the time. So open source maintainers, they are thinking not directly, like indirectly about the intergroup all the time. That's why we see some of these open source initiatives being so successful, because they're friendly, they're easy to navigate, and then they add value as a product. If we can understand the feature set in less than 5 minutes, even better, right? Because that means that we're going to be navigating the code base more effectively. We gotta find simple mental models, right? That simplicity, it's really hard to achieve. That's why you need to constantly challenge yourself. Am I making the right decision? That's why you need constant feedback, right? That's why sometimes even like your first approach to a problem tends to be the right approach from an organizational structure, right? It's because that leads to a simpler mental model. You have less time to think about it, right? As a team, another thing that we can do to be effective is to establish the rules of the games. Or in other words, define what success looks like, both for the team and for individuals. This is something that I've learned now that I'm a manager, right? It's like, you have to guide the team for success. So you gotta sum up the energy of every individual to make something that is larger than the sum of the parts, right? So in order to do that, you need to define what is the game that you're playing, or like in this case, what success looks like. Imagine playing a basketball game, and you're not keeping score. And then after 40 minutes, you're like, okay, what's the team that is winning? We don't know, right? And you need that score. So for us, we need to have that same idea on the engineering side as well. This is the secret sauce that we have at BDB. Many of the folks in the audience that work with me, this is something that they've been seeing this for the last, I don't know, like 2 months. They might be tired and they're like, I was not expecting to see this again in a conference, but that's a different story. This is our rubric of success for being a great consultant at BDB. I could even argue like technical excellence, effective communication and collaboration and reliability that makes an engineer an amazing engineer all around the world, right? But us as consultants, is that thought leadership, that generation of opportunities that sets us apart from being an engineer. I tell the team, hey, being a consultant is being an engineer with superpowers, right? If we don't grow in these 4 directions all at once, then we cannot say that we're doing a good job as an individual, right? If you only grow in technical excellence, but when it comes to effective communication and collaboration, that means like, are you a good partner? The answer is no. You know, we've always worked with that person that's a little bit like, I know they can solve the problem, but like, I'm not gonna ask for help because they're gonna, you know, it's gonna be toxic. Or like that person that is like, oh, I know the solution and it's gonna be done by tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday. Thursday's not done, Friday's not done, and then you look the week after, it's like, I'm almost done. It's like, you told me that it was gonna be done last week, right? That reliability is important. Thought leadership, it's about like bringing your uniqueness, because everyone here has a unique set of skills, background, experiences, and point of view, right? So how to put that at the service of something that is larger than yourself, whether it's your team, your department, your company, the community, right? So for us at BDB, that's what it means to be a successful consultant. If I didn't have this guidance for the team, many people will think like, oh, being a great consultant is like having the best technical solution for a problem. And you know, I don't need to be reliable. I know that it sounds crazy, but like that's the way we keep score, right? The way I've been defining this is like, if you ever play Super Mario Kart, right? When you pick like your character, you have like power, acceleration, brakes. Like they have different values, right? Well, this is a unicorn character in the video game of Red Adventures. Get a little bit weird, but that's what we're trying to go with this, right? And the last point that an effective team is gonna have in order to be successful is to prove that it works with very little effort. That very little effort has to be in the moment of proving that it works. Actually setting up infrastructure could be much harder than that, but like all these, or like thinking about it in a different ways, letting the robots do the task you don't want to do. By robots we mean computers, automation, blah, blah, blah. This forces us usually like, in order to have like good testing, for example, it means that we have to do a HABA implementation. But in order to have good documentation, it means that we're thinking about how we work people properly. But there's a bunch of things that we do on a daily basis that we're like, oh man, like this is pain. Actually, during dinner yesterday, someone was telling me that they do monthly releases, and the last week of every month is to prepare the release. And I was like, man, that sounds horrible. I was like, yeah, this is horrible. And I was thinking to myself, you know, that's not the sign of an effective team, right? Now, they might have reasons to do that, but like, you can tell that the team was not excited about going to production. And it should be the opposite, right? Like, going to production, going to the market is putting the work that you've done at the service of your customers. But that process was so painful that they were not excited about that part, right? So it's about changing that mindset, changing that mentality, right? Humans, we are amazing creative people. We see that creativity put at the use of like everyone here like constantly, but we suck at repetitive tasks, right? That's why Picasso didn't paint the Guernica 1,000 times. He just did it once, right? And then he moved on. But if he had to do it like 1,000 times, I'm telling you, like the 500th time, it would suck. Because we are error prone, right? Like it's all about that creativity. So that's why that level of automation is going to be critical for teams, right? And to be honest, it's also more effective this way. It's even cheaper, right? this is something that me as a manager, something I have to look. It's like, hey, how can we do more with less resources so we can be more effective, right? So, we're getting to the end of the talk here. So let's recap so far. What do we know to build amazing engineering cultures, both from an individual point of view and from a team point of view? How to achieve their full potential? We gotta be biased by action. We gotta sometimes say yes and make it happen. We gotta raise our hand and volunteer. We gotta ask that question that we left unanswered in a meeting or whatever, right? So we can be better individuals. We gotta allow ourselves the permission to fuck it up, to make mistakes, to find a journey and outcome that is not what we expect. We gotta leave the code base better than the way we found it. And we gotta be comfortable in the unknown, right? If you, as an engineer, can follow these 4 steps, this guidance, let me tell you, nothing can stop you. I don't know where your journey is gonna go. I don't know if that's gonna be Flutter or in machine learning or like going back to native, we don't know. But you're gonna have a point of view and experience that is so strong and so valuable that people will just want to be with you. How to achieve your team full potential? Again, let's remember about that intercode, like how to make the environment friendly for everyone to contribute as soon as possible. We gotta define what success looks like so everyone is pushing towards the same direction. And we gotta prove that it works with very little effort. At the end of the day, this can be summarized like how to make your own ripple effect. How do you inspire people, right? As big as you can. Today, I'm trying to do this with like a couple hundred people in this audience, right? To me, the next step is going to be 1,000 people. And 4 years from now, I'll be, the World Cup. I don't know. Different story. But it's about that mentality, about making your huge ripple effect as large as possible. So with that said, I wanted to thank you all for listening to me. And more importantly, have a wonderful Flutter Conf Latam. Thank you.
Gracias, Jorge. Thank you very much. So, I think before we left, let's one more round of applause. En este momento, me queda una sola cosa más por hacer antes de que vamos a pedir un poco de espacio para poder redistribuir aquí. Pero olvidé a las grandes, no se olvidé, las dejé para el final. Las grandes personas que se encargaron de mucho de eso. Tenemos a muchas personas del staff. Tenemos a Dorian, de este lado. Porque él ya lo presenté, pero también este staff. Está allá Tomás. Y bueno, está Edgar, está Kevin, Roma fue parte del staff también, está Ania, está... Uy, se me están yendo los nombres, necesito una lista. Todas las personas que tienen camiseta con diseño organizador están aquí para ayudarnos. Gracias a ellos se hizo todo esto. Obviamente nuestros sponsors, que tenemos grandes sponsors como Very Good Ventures, tenemos sponsors, tenemos Pragma, tenemos Global, tenemos Invertise, tenemos Somnio, tenemos Code Magic, Pacer. Creo que son todos, ¿verdad? Creo que sí, si no ahorita yo me disculpo con ellos, pero son grandes de las personas que tenemos aquí como sponsors. Sí, Flow. Gracias. GitHub.